a special live episode from Nashville, Tennessee. How would you say AI has already changed the recruiting process?
It's almost as if there's a bit of a Cold War going on between the recruiter and the candidate.
AI is changing our process due to fake candidates.
How do we ensure that the right candidates will get selected?
You want someone who can actually provide that empathy, provide the guidance, etc., which I don't believe AI today can do.
AI could really become the recruiter's new best friend. Hello everyone, I'm Jill Wiltfong, Chief Marketing Officer for Korn Ferry, and this is Briefings, actually a special live episode of the Briefings podcast brought to you live from Nashville, Tennessee. We're really excited to have you here, so thanks for joining us remotely. We've also got a room full of people with us, so very exciting to have a live audience today, and you will get a chance to hear from some of them and hear some of their questions as well in a moment. I want to start with a quick show of hands of people in the room, and you can play along at home if you'd like. How many of your firms would you say have AI today integrated into the recruiting process? Just raise your hands if it's happening in some way, shape, or form. So I would say pretty close to half, maybe even more than half of the audience have their hands raised there, which is not surprising. Companies are actually projected to spend, we've got our CFO here, he probably knows this well, over $500 billion just this year to make that vision come true. So then it leaves this kind of $500 billion question, right? With all of that artificial help, why are nearly 7 in 10 organizations still reporting having difficulty integrating AI into recruiting? The experts that we've talked to say the problem really isn't AI, it's actually how humans are using AI, right? So is it always our fault? Why is it always our fault, right? But done right, we do know that AI could really become the recruiter's new best friend. I want to introduce our panelists. We've got 3 wonderful, brave people here with us today. Brian Ackerman, who heads up Korn Ferry's Head of AI Strategy and Transformation. We have Marnie Ridling, who is Vice President of Talent Acquisition at Cox Enterprises. And Shanaz Waples, who is Group Executive of People and Culture at Colonial First State. So thank you to all of you for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
So Marnie, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
How would you say AI has already changed the recruiting process in your organization, or has it?
It has, in a couple of different ways. I think that it is changing how our recruiters are recruiting, but it is changing how candidates are coming to the organization as well. And so when you think about AI in the recruiting process, oftentimes people think about the tools that we're using, and is it a time saver or is it a better experience? But AI is also changing our process due to fake candidates and the way that candidates are leveraging AI to beef up their resumes or change those cover letters. And so it's changing our process in that our recruiters are having to have a little bit more level of discernment, trying to figure out how to navigate the deep fakes of candidate viability.
Yeah, it's a big change for us, but a big just kind of culture shift, right? What about you?
What we're trying to do is create talent champions, and Brian and I were talking about this. So we're selecting for this program who are the champions across the organization who can actually help us influence our AI adoption. So the exam question we put out is send us a 1-minute video and tell us why you should be a champion. That was the only rule. What we found is out of the couple hundred that applied, there were a lot of them that actually just use AI tools only, so you couldn't see the human in it, which was, we hadn't put that as a criteria.
Yeah.
So then we had to go through another level of filtering to say who are these humans behind it all, because some of them we didn't actually know.
Brian, what are you seeing?
Just Marnie's comment on the use of AI the candidates are using to fake interviews. It's almost as if there's a bit of a Cold War going on between the recruiter and the candidate.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the resurgence of proctoring, right, is becoming a thing, and ID verification before interviews are happening, and even at certain higher profile or risk recruiting activities, the reinvention of You remember the in-person interview? You know, take all of the technology out of the equation and bring somebody back in front of a human recruiter.
Okay. Oh, you're a robot.
Android, technically.
What do I do if my hibernation pod malfunctions?
Oh, hibernation pods are fail-safe. They never malfunction.
And when are all the passengers supposed to wake up?
Not till the last 4 months.
How is it that I'm sitting here with you, with 90 years to go?
It's not possible for you to be here.
What a good movie. I love that movie. Well, certainly nothing ever goes wrong in the recruiting process, right? Whether it's human or tech. But let's talk a little bit about process, right? And AI with recruiting certainly introduces some new nuances around the process. Shanaz, how do we ensure that the right candidates will get selected when we shift more and more to this kind of AI screening and that sort of area?
Sure. So I must say my sort of perspective on this is that I think AI can be used more to augment the human sort of guidance around this, but there'll always be a need for humans. I just went in and had a look at, say, ChatGPT and Claude, which is a tool I use a lot, and asked, can AI test for empathy? And the answer it gave me was things like machines can only do, they can't feel. Humans can feel. And therefore, yes, today we can't do empathy, but we can help you test for empathy. And why is that really important in terms of the process for us when you're sitting down in front of, say, a widow who lost their partner and is worrying about their finances, it's their life saving. You want someone who can actually provide that empathy, provide the guidance, etc., which I don't believe AI today can do.
We did some research recently that looked at kind of leaders and assessed kind of their readiness to embrace this shift to AI. And it turned out only 9% of leaders had the behavioral and experiential capacity to kind of really embrace this shift. Does that surprise you, Brian?
No. So when I talk to clients, especially leaders, the first thing I ask is who's used it, and themselves. And I'm sure the folks in the room would agree, this technology is pretty visceral. You don't really understand it until you begin to use it yourself. And I think that's usually the first thing we try and do with a group of leaders when we talk to them, because if they get their own calibration of what this technology is capable of doing, all of a sudden the mindset starts to shift and the creative juices start flowing and the ideation starts to happen. But we find that leaders actually have to use it in the work of leadership, and that starts to be a shift.
Is there one place in the recruiting process where you feel like you would never want AI to replace a human?
For me, it would be the engagement session,
The
kickoff, the engagement. I think that there is a real skill in having a recruiter sit down and understand, I'll call it what their order is. So you want me to go and find this. But having a conversation with a hiring leader and really understanding the nuance of, but you need someone who's a little bit more like this, or you need someone who's going to work compatibly with this person. Those are things that I don't yet believe AI will have a credible place in our process. That is just a human gut relationship management element.
This could go to any of you, but I'm curious, do you think candidates know when they're in an AI experience? And does that matter?
For us, the moment that really matters is when they actually start in the job. Because there's often a lead time between the time you say yes and the time they start. And we've seen a lot of people, especially in the younger sort of cohorts, where they'll accept multiple jobs and then actually only start one. So we need to keep them engaged from the time we actually get the offer to them to the time they start. So we're thinking and this is where AI is going to be incredibly useful, is how do we keep them engaged? How do we do the nudges? How do we send some messages around our culture? How do we make them feel warmly welcomed even before they walk into the building or wherever they're working from?
The road you're on, John Anderton, is the one less traveled. Make sure gourmet cuisine.
John Anderson! You could use a Guinness right about now.
Stressed out, John Anderson.
Escape from it all, Harrison. Get away, John Anderson. Forget your troubles.
I remember it coming out and thinking like, gosh, yeah, like he's walking through a mall, right? And it knows him by his eyes. And so it's like, hey, John, do you want this belt? That belt you were looking for yesterday looks really good on you. Aren't you thirsty, right? Have a Guinness. I mean, this is our world, right? So the future's here. I think AI recruiting, AI and how it's impacting organizations, very exciting. As you think about AI and recruiting, what does excite each of you? And is there anything that concerns you?
The thing that excites me about AI is, for me, it's like the Oprah show when, everyone in the studio audience gets a car or the robe or whatever. I feel like AI is you get an assistant, you get an assistant, you get an assistant. And so I'm excited about that for personal reasons and also for work reasons. I think the thing that concerns me is I do wonder if people will think that they can opt out of certain parts of the process or certain parts of interaction because they have AI to do that. Mm-hmm. And so they'll lean on the assistant. But they'll lose that human interaction that is back to the culture creation. Mm-hmm.
Brian, I have a big question for you at the end here. It's like Nostradamus here, right?
Yeah.
If you could look ahead 5 years, 5 years, what do you think the role of the recruiter will look like? And we're going to come back to this and check you in 5 years.
There, please. I'm excited about AI, obviously generally, because Ethan Mollick, researcher at Stanford, said everybody really is now the smartest person in the room, right? I mean, and that unleashes a level of innovation that we haven't seen. And as we talked about, I'm worried about the elevation of those human moments, right? The things that really make the difference to somebody taking a step in their career, an organization getting that talent that they absolutely need. In 5 years, my hope is that we've used AI to focus the candidate pool to that real intersection of what a company actually needs to people's purpose, which drives them, and that the only thing left are those human moments.
Well, thank you, all of you, for being here. Thanks for being a good audience.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to the next thing.
Hi, and welcome to This Week in Leadership. I'm Rupak Bhattacharya, and here's a quick look at what else is happening in business.
The companies investing in generative AI report no return on their investment.
Only 21% of AI projects scale to a level that generates a meaningful return on investment. Experts say part of this issue stems from the difficulty in matching the right AI tools to the right people and functions. But even if a firm does figure out which tools go where, it may face a more difficult challenge, making sure employees are turning to these tools too.
Signs you've got a bad boss.
Forget your direct report's 40th birthday? New research finds even seemingly mild slights by managers can lead to shocking results, such as a 50% increase in employee absenteeism or a drop of 2 working hours per month. The takeaway? Savvy managers should be aware that even small relational missteps like eye rolls and interruptions are always on stage.
In wine country, growers and wineries are facing some big economic challenges.
Since the end of the pandemic, the number of cases of wine the Napa Valley region ships has dropped by more than 15%. Experts cite changing tastes, price sensitivity, and trade wars as some of the reasons for this decline, and say it's a reminder of how seemingly disparate events can have a big effect on organizations. For more insights from This Week in Leadership, head to kornferry.com/insights.
The executive producer of Briefings is Jonathan Dahl. Today's episode was produced by Rupak Bhattacharya and Zachary Dorr. And it was edited by Jaron Henry McRae. It contains reporting by Russell Perlman, Ariane Cohen, and Peter Loria. Our video segment contains original artwork by Fraser Milton, Haley Kennel, Jonathan Pink, and Sasha Kotschik. Don't forget to read our magazine, available at newsstands and at kornferry.com/briefings. That's it for Korn Ferry Briefings. I'm Jill Wiltfong. See you next time. I have the world's worst eyes, so I'm staring at this sign for me and I have no idea what it says.
Move your hair.
Move my hair. There we go.